Hello there, friends. This is Spencer Michaud. Today we're going to be talking about the full moon in Scorpio 1. So we're going to be going over some stuff with Scorpio and with Taurus. We're going to take a look at the I-Ching today and the tarot. If you are coming into the live stream here, let me know that you are here by leaving me a comment in the chat box. Tell me where you're coming from and how things are going for you today. Remember that I do have a 20-second delay on the chat, so I will try to get to all of your questions and comments as I can. So I hope that you're all hanging in there today. We are building up to this full moon that we're going to be experiencing tomorrow at 11:31 p.m. Eastern Time, the 26th. Your mileage may vary as to which day it is. We've got some people coming in the chat here. Hello, Susanna from Finland. How you doing? Azur is here from France. Very cool. We've got our Finland crew. Tarja is here again. Dimfy is here from the Netherlands. Everybody seems like they're a little worn out today, which is understandable with all of the emotional things we've been experiencing lately. Lee is here from Toronto. Very cool. We've got a very international crew here today, which is exciting. So I am very glad to see all of you again. If you're just filtering in the live stream today, make sure you leave me a comment. Let me know that you're here and where you're coming in from today. So we will kind of take a look at what we're dealing with here. We've got a little bit of a challenging full moon. This is this is a little bit of a doozy. Hello, Pearl. This is Dimfy's daughter. Oh, very cool. Hi, Pearl. So we've got the crew from the Netherlands here today. Nice to see all of you. I'm so excited that we have such a cosmopolitan group here from all corners of the earth. It's very exciting to be able to connect with all of you in the different areas of the world here. So let's get started and take a look at what we've got going on. This full moon is happening at 7 degrees of Scorpio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and we'll talk a little bit about this full moon and see what we can see. All right. So today on the 25th of April, this is a Sunday that we're doing this on, we are building up to this Scorpio moon. We're still in the Libra phase of the moon right now, which is a little bit gentler, but we have the big elephant in the room is Mars in Cancer. So Mars recently moved into Cancer on, I believe it was Thursday or Friday. I released a video yesterday because I was just really, I'm a Cancer sun and Mercury, so that Mars was hitting me pretty hard. And, as I've been talking about on the channel, if you aren't familiar, my mom is in the hospital right now. She had some seizures, some pretty serious seizures recently and is in the ICU. And a few years ago, she had a pretty severe stroke after having an aneurysm. And she's been having some health challenges with that. So she is awake and she is conscious again. So there's some good news on that front. But I appreciate all of you who have been sending your love and support. It really means a lot to me. And I think that, when we experience challenges like this, we can, really lean on our community to get us through it. So thank you all for that. But that's been my Mars and Cancer experience. And that's really kind of it's kind of par for the course with Mars and Cancer. Mars, being the host of this full moon, is acting as the potter in the sign of Cancer, and the clay is this moon. So we're experiencing severing and separating, hardship, some misfortune, some challenges when it relates to things related to the moon, which could, amongst other things, be the mother, could be family issues, it could be domestic challenges, it could be issues related to the body. It could be the way that we feel like we are giving, nurturing, or receiving it. This is a big theme, I think, with this full moon is the concept of nurturance in general. Um, and Mars is just disrupting all of those things. Mars is in his fall or his depression in this sign. Mars generally likes to be direct, and this is a place where Mars has to kind of go through the back channels to achieve things and to take action. Some of our energy may be, um, a little bit inconsistent and erratic due to some of the emotional challenges that we're going through. And I know that, like I said, I've been experiencing that myself, just going through the emotional roller coaster of having a family member in the hospital. It's a difficult thing, especially when you're trying to figure out what's going on from a distance. And with the pandemic, it's difficult to visit people in these environments. And my mom lives a state away, so it's traveling state to state right now isn't really the best idea, especially coming from Michigan, where we're really experiencing some real challenging numbers with COVID and the spikes with that. So, um, I think that can leave you, and I'm curious if anyone else is experiencing some stuff on the home front right now, or a situation that is bringing up a lot of challenging emotions, um, where you may feel a little bit helpless. I think that this is one of the things that is going on right now is there may be a situation of decay, of corruption that we may not really have the upper hand on right now, where we have to make adjustments because there is something that is a little bit out of our control. We may want to fight right now. We may want to take action and I guess ride in on our heroic horses, but the situation doesn't really support that type of thing right now. We'll see this when the I-Ching reading comes up. This may be a period of retreat. So that's kind of just setting the stage here. I think Mars is really important with this with this full moon. We do have a stack up in Taurus right now too. We have the Sun, Uranus, Venus, and Mercury all in Taurus right now, and the moon is opposing all of these things. So right now, all of these Taurus planets are concerned with bringing things into being, with generating something, with planting seeds, with figuring out how we are going to grow something in this spring season in the Northern Hemisphere. And when we see the moon opposing, the moon is really, it's the exaltation lord of Taurus too, so kind of like the owner of that temple or that estate. And I think that we are seeing some difficulties bringing something into fruition. There's difficulty planting our seeds. Tarya is pointing out that anger could be something that is coming up with this full moon as well, and I agree 100%. I think that one of the things I mentioned in my Mars in Cancer video was that a lot of the time we can transfer our sadness and our feelings of helplessness into anger. I know that that's something I've been wrestling with over the past week. I'm finding myself in a position where I am very sad and also feeling like I want to be able to do more. And it's very, very easy to project those feelings into anger and to create a shadow entity outside of ourselves. And it's very easy to demonize a person or a situation. And I think that is probably very prominent right now, where we feel a lot of anger. We maybe feel a lot of resentment that's coming up during this full moon as well, where we might want to take revenge, or we might want to take action to right what we perceive as a wrong. And those are difficult feelings to deal with, and sometimes they're legitimate. Other times they can get us even deeper into the situation that we're trying to find liberation from. The other thing to consider with this that's making this spring season a real doozy, and one that is not normal as far as how we can, find pleasure, I guess. There's pleasure is something associated with Taurus. Usually it's a really pleasurable season where the spring flowers are starting to sprout, and there's all sorts of beautiful things starting to happen in the world. We're itchy to get out of the house after a long winter and do some activities, but we do have Saturn right now in the overcoming position to all of these Taurus placements. And that means that it's in a square, and the overcoming square is a real difficult one in Hellenistic astrology. It's one that is sort of where the planet has an upper hand on all these planets and is exerting its influence in a really difficult way. And Saturn is exerting this influence in a way that is sort of blocking, it is denying, it's making us feel exiled. It is, putting limitations on things that we are experiencing. We may have some stuff where we are experiencing some social challenges right now and some social limitations that really may not necessarily be something that is within our control, but it may be limiting our ability to plant new seeds and to pursue pleasure. And this moon is going to be squaring all that. So this is like a big T-square between the Taurus impulse to generate and to give, I think, charity as well. There is some secret esoteric meaning with Taurus. It's not just about how can we pursue pleasure, it's how can we generate and give to others. I think that our charitable impulses are also tied up in Taurus season. But we may have difficulty with feelings of being able to give because we may feel a sense of lack right now and a little bit of worry due to some of the circumstances we've been under, like the pandemic is going on and on and on, and we may have lost jobs or lost connection to resources. We may be feeling some righteous anger at some of the things we're seeing at the news right now. And the moon's just going to be triggering a lot of that. We have some comments coming in where it says, Susanna says, I noticed some anger issues in myself as a mother just when Mars had moved into Cancer. Yeah, really the themes of anger are going to be directed towards some of those maternal type of significations right now. Remember, Mars is being offered the clay from the moon. And this first decan of Cancer really, Austin Coppock calls that decan of Cancer mother and child. So a lot of the anger can come from our roles as a mother, but also our roles with our own mothers, our roles with any situation where we are trying to feel nurtured or give nurturing. So it's really interesting to see it come up both in ourselves and in circumstances related to, where we may have been looking for support. This is where we're cut off from some of the support. One other thing to think about with Mars in this decan is the roles could be reversed. Austin Coppock in this decan of Cancer talks a lot about the mother becoming the role reversed where the child becomes food for the mother. Does that make sense? Where instead of in the right relationship, the mother would be consuming to provide for the child. But when Mars is moving through this decan, those roles can become reversed, where like the mother becomes like a hungry consumer. This is where we have to really watch ourselves, where we aren't creating conflict or using manipulation to provide for others. One of the kind of things with Cancer is it's not just about providing nurturance. It has this duality of consumption and providing, just like the moon does. The moon is gaining in its light in a certain phase. It is consuming resources to become fuller, and then it releases those resources to its child. So we have the duality of the mother, where it is consuming things to be able to provide. But again, we have to watch ourselves that we're not, using conflict to provide, and feeling like we want to be owed something, or demanding that we be nurtured in a certain way. Sometimes we can feel like we're not being appreciated for the things that we're doing. That's another thing that could come up. We're seeing one more comment. Dimfy is saying not so much anger, but more sadness, to be honest. Almost unbelief to realize there will be farewells. As counterbalance, I am planting colorful flowers and soon veggies. Yeah, I love that, Dimfy. And I agree with you. I think that once Mars started moving into Cancer, I was right there with you, Dimfy. I felt an overwhelming sadness. One of the things I like about what Liz Green talks about with Cancer in her book, The Astrology of Fate, is she talks about the longing in Cancer for a return to the womb. She calls it the Ouroboros womb. And this is the ocean of creation, where we long to return to not only the maternal womb, but to the womb of creation itself, the womb of divinity. So there is this kind of Cancerian wistfulness, I would call it. And this really started to overwhelm me at the end of the week. Was this, the moon is associated with memory. It collects experiences, and we reflect on our experiences. So I was overwhelmed by a rush of memories of maybe better times in the past. And that had me feeling sad, and made me feel that existential longing that I think that Dimfy may be talking about to a certain degree. So I think that there's a lot of kind of feelings of painful memories, I think, with this Mars position. And how do we deal with that? And we'll get to that when we examine the decan of Scorpio. Amber is talking about another astrologer calling people out. I'm not familiar with that, Amber, with that experience. So I can't really comment on that, because I don't know what was going on. But I think that it's easy to look over our shoulders at others in the community, and a lot of people can feel attacked or feel emotional. And I try to stay out of that as much as I can. I have enough on my plate trying to deal with my own life and the conflicts I have in my own domestic sphere. I try to stay out of some of the challenging circumstances with people in the community and whatnot. Sometimes it's difficult because I know that people want to make sense of things. And I think that the only thing I can say with this, not having any idea what the conflict is over, but the astrology community is just like any other community, where it's comprised of human beings. And those human beings are fallible. They make mistakes. They have sensitivities just like any other human being. Sometimes they may fall prey to human vices, like pride, like anger, like revenge, or feeling slighted for various reasons. And I think that my take on all that is just to have compassion for them as human beings. I think that a lot of times in this job, we can feel a lot of responsibility, at least I do, for being a source of strength for people. And I think that the challenging thing is to be that source of strength when we're feeling a sense of weakness ourselves. And that can be, that makes us human, right? I at 7 o'clock at night last night, I recorded a Mars and Cancer video. I was utterly exhausted. I hadn't slept much the night before. I feel like my energy was pretty low, but I felt a responsibility to do that video. And what it necessitated was me being maybe a little more emotionally vulnerable and maybe not at my best. And that can be embarrassing sometimes, but at the same time, I think that just helps us to get in touch with our authenticity, and realizing that us as astrologers, while we have spent a lot of time studying and trying to cultivate wisdom and centeredness, that at the end of the day, we are just people just like you, and we're going through these transits with you, while we're trying to interpret them for you. So I guess that's my answer, Amber, as far as any drama that would come up in the community itself. So I would say trust your intuition, trust your own sense of integrity, and try not to get sucked into to drama, especially if you're feeling vulnerable yourself. I would say that's the best way to deal with stuff like that at this point. All right. Hopefully that was a satisfactory answer. Susanna says, I can so relate to the pain of memories. Sometimes it's very hard even to look at old photos. Oh man. Yes, I feel that strongly. I have a project ahead of me in the next few weeks and months. Is I have a very full, I have a very very full attic right now, and most of the things in there are stuff from my childhood, and I've been avoiding it. Really, like I've been avoiding it like the plague, no pun intended, um, because I can't just go through and discard things. One of the Cancerian, it's both a superpower and a curse. And Susanna has the sun at the same degree of Cancer as me, so I'm sure that this happens to you. I can't just touch something old without just being shocked into that moment. Like these objects, these pictures particularly, have they're infused with sentimentality and with meaning, and it's just like I can instantly be transported to that time. Now, that makes me a great storyteller at times, but it also really can be almost paralyzing when we're trying to get rid of things in our life and when we're reviewing the past. Sometimes that reviewing is necessary, and sometimes it's just bringing up old, experiences and ripping off the scab in an old, painful experience. So one thing I've been doing is instead of keeping everything that I want to go and revisit, I'll take a picture of it and then I'll get rid of the physical thing, and I'll make sure that I back up the physical picture in a couple different places, because again, I can just look at the picture and still be instantly transported back to that time frame. Um, Lee says she was told that this astrologer that was having a conflict said this too shall pass regarding how he was feeling. It was a 7 of Swords day for him, Amber. Yeah, and I think that's a great way of thinking about it too. There's emotional things that come up, and again, they're temporary. And there are 7 of Swords is leaving the past behind and feeling this stepping into the unknown and being able to release some of these old resentments. Amber says, thank you, you are blessed. Thank you, Amber. I appreciate it. I'm trying to do my best here as a hopefully be a voice of light within our community, and to add to the conversation here rather than stir up more trouble. Tarya says, totally can relate. Can't destroy any memories, and they are piling high. Yeah, and I think that also might be a secret hidden meaning of this full moon is it's time to release. It's time to get rid of some stuff that isn't serving us. Mars is really digging through the past and digging through those feelings of how we were nurtured, maybe even remembering, experiences we had with our own mothers or our own mother figures, and asking us to cut some ties. My partner does some ritualistic, magical types of stuff, and we kind of did a little ritual bath last night where we had a very sharp knife, and we were doing some ritualistic cord cutting, just going through the aura and cutting those old cords and releasing them back to where they came from, and that really helped me feel a lot lighter today. I can tell that my energy is a lot more centered today than it was yesterday. I was just getting overwhelmed yesterday, and I had a good night's sleep last night, and I feel a lot more centered. I did a lot of my self-care things, and I think that ritual cord cutting was very helpful as well. So I can highly recommend something like that, like taking a salt bath, or with Epsom salt maybe as well, that can help relax you. But the sea salt's really important. And then, you could take like whatever implement, whether it's a crystal or something like that, and try to cut those ties. Don't physically cut yourself, just cut around your aura, over your chakras and things like that. And that can really help return some energy to the source. All right, Diffie says, look at the bright side and be grateful. All those things all of those things brought us to where we are now. Stay strong as well. Yeah, I agree. And that's going to come up in our card that we are looking at with this full moon. So moving forward with some of our significations with this full moon. Yes, we do have this overcoming square with Saturn that's asking us to grow within certain limitations. But when we look at the moon itself, it is going to be coming to fullness in the first decan of Scorpio. And I'm going to stop my screen share for a minute so you can see what's going on here. And we have, here is the two cards we're dealing with that are in opposition. The sun is in Taurus 1, associated with the Five of Pentacles. And the moon is coming to its fullness in the Five of Cups. So in the Five of Pentacles, we see two figures that have fallen onto hard times, potentially outside of a church in a snowstorm. They're looking a little bit haggard. They may be worried about how they're going to support themselves. But this card is a card of divine intervention, of having faith, in the process and doing the hard work necessary to be able to plow the fields of your life, to remove all the rocks from those fertile fields so that you can plant something that will be able to come to fruition. And be careful what seeds that you plant. Plant the seeds of that you want to see come to fruition, rather than planting the seeds of bitter fruit. If we're planting the seeds of resentment and things like that, what comes to manifest may not be to our liking and may not be something that can support us. So when we take a look at the moon in this decan of Scorpio, again, the moon is in its fall. It's at the bottom of the wheel of fortune. There's nowhere to go but up, I think, is the saving grace with this. It's a depressed moon. It's difficult for it to bring things into manifestation. The thing that the moon can do well here is to eliminate bad habits, to eliminate corruption, to eliminate things that are no longer serving us. Again, Mars and the moon are going to have a condition called mutual reception. So Mars is in the moon's temple and the moon is in Mars's temple. So this is going to be a relationship where potentially there is a silver lining or some good that comes out of a very difficult experience. So I think that the good that we could see is we may be rooting out some of the below the surface emotional challenge and maybe even some physical bad habits that we need to let go of, that eventually will restore whatever circumstance we're dealing with back into harmony, into equilibrium. So in this card is called a loss in pleasure or disappointment by Book T in the Book of Thoth. Austin Coppock calls it a jawbone. So there is some associations with hunger in this particular decan. So we want to consume something. Whereas the daimon associated with the Five of Pentacles were the charities, all right, where we were providing and attending to the divinities. The daimon with this one are the nymphi, which are objects of desire. So we may be desiring something that we can't have right now. We may be recognizing that there's certain desires that aren't really serving us. And I think that what we need to really do to fall back on is exactly what Dimfy is talking about, is falling back onto our sense of gratitude. I think that the key with this card here is, yes, we have 3 spilled cups. We do need to feel our feelings and mourn our losses, especially for maybe things that have fallen into disrepair or that just no longer are part of our life anymore. That's just how the wheel of fortune works as it continues to spin. It basically, forms come into being and they pass out of being. It's natural. And it's part of a human life is to experience growth and then subsequently decay and loss. And this card really speaks to that loss. But also we see in this card that there are 2 cups that are still standing upright. And if this cloaked figure were to mourn his losses, but then not get fixated on them and realize that there are 2 cups still standing, some support system, he would be able to overcome his impasse and cross the bridge to the castle of fulfillment. Okay, so this card really to me is about reversing perspective and trying to find gratitude for that which we still have rather than getting too fixated on what we've lost. again, I don't think we should be in denial of what we've lost. I think that it is healthy to feel our feelings and to mourn. I think that um, we have this kind of attachment in this society where we have to put on this brave face all the time, and sometimes we, especially in these social media environments, we're always trying to you know create this Instagram ready picture of our life, and it's just not the way that human lives work. And in general, if we meet people in person, people ask how we are, we can say, oh great, but they can tell sometimes if we're not feeling at our best. And oftentimes in person, it's a lot easier to have those more intimate conversations about what's bothering you with a close friend. And we've lost some of that as we move towards this digital environment. And I actually would encourage you to not feel like you have to always put that brave face on. And sometimes just showing people the authentic self is okay. Um, I think that one of the instincts that we have when we're feeling bad is we want to kind of retreat into our own private worlds, and we just don't want people to see us at our worst. And that's okay too. If you want to take a break and you don't want to share uh, all of your feelings publicly, there's nothing wrong with that. um, I think that in the job that I have here, it's just the planets keep on spinning, and if I don't show up and make a video, I'm gonna miss my window. So you may see some time periods with me where I'm just feeling my feelings, and I have to be authentic about it and talk about it without, again, trying to stir the pot too much. But I think that that's really this is a key, is mourning our losses, but also shifting towards the gratitude that we can find within our what is left behind. Okay, again, the card that is associated with Mars right now that's providing the clay for that moon is the Two of Cups. So there may be a relationship in our life, an intimate relationship, whether it is between ourselves and our partner, whether it's between ourselves and a child or ourselves and a parent, that we're just really feeling some conflict with and feeling separated from. And that's really the the battleground right now, is those nurturing feelings and those domestic situations. Okay, so but remember, this too shall pass. Sometimes we need to eliminate some of those old resentment feelings that we have built up in relationships. A lot of times we're just busy with our lives, and things can build up, and we have to kind of take some time to deal with some of the situations that have fallen into disrepair every once in a while, and we restore things to balance, and then the energy flows again. So something to consider. Saturn is moving through the decan of Aquarius, associated with the Six of Swords. So this is really about leaving the past behind, trying to talk to the people in power and the people that have been exiled, and having a communication between the two. We're seeing this in our news cycles a lot, with maybe trying to restore some equilibrium to our social issues. So this, maybe in our personal lives, we can leave the past behind as well. So this is something that Saturn is working on. Dimfy's asking, so Mars is the clay and the moon is the potter. Interestingly enough, so if we go back to the chart, that's a good question. This is a concept that has been really on my mind from Martine Hermes, who is drawing it from Robert Schmidt. Now, in this case, we have a really unique type of thing happening, because Mars and the moon are both in each other's domicile. So let's think about this for a second, because we have a situation where Mars and the moon are both potter and clay for each other, if that makes sense. So the moon right now is the potter in Scorpio and drawing upon the clay of Mars. So the moon's trying to manifest, it's trying to bring things into existence, it's trying to shine its light and grow something into the full fruiting phase. The moon is also trying to collect and bring things into being, but it is the potter in that regard, but it is drawing upon the clay of Mars, which is separating, severing, conflict in relationship to the significations of birth and bringing things into being. Now, at the same time, Mars is the potter in the sign of Cancer, and is drawing upon the clay of the moon that is in its fall. So these have mutual reception by being both in each other's like domiciles, but also they're both in the fall. They are both in their own fall. So again, I think that we may see something decent coming out of really difficult circumstances like that aren't ideal for either planet. Mars right now isn't able to move forward in a straight line. It has to kind of maybe there's 2 steps backwards to take 1 step forwards. We may have to feel like we're moving sideways. It's difficult to have a direct confrontation with Mars in this position. And it's difficult for the moon to manifest and to do the things it wants to do because it's in a house that is associated with returning form to the earth. With it's in a domicile that has to do with decay and with rooting out bad habits. Okay, so I think that that's another theme of this full moon is how can we eliminate the bad habits that we may have fallen into, maybe through neglect, maybe just through buildup and not, really not paying enough attention to a certain area of our life, that will allow us to keep growing and to build over time. Okay. But the powder clay metaphor is really a powerful one. I mean, if we look at the sun, for example, we have the sun is the potter right now in Taurus, and it's drawing upon the clay of Venus. And Venus is in its own domicile. So that clay is of high quality. Okay. That clay is, Venus is able to create harmony in the sign of Taurus, inner peace. And the sun wants to bring awareness to something. It wants to exert authority. It wants to create vitality. So it is drawing upon good clay, whereas the moon is drawing upon substandard clay right now. And so is Mars. Mars is drawing upon this substandard clay of the moon. But again, there is maybe some kind of compromise that can be struck between those 2 planets. Hopefully that makes sense, Dimphy. Yeah, it says the same here, busy with his book. With Robert Schmidt's book or with Martine Hermes' book? Does he have a book? Because I'm curious if he does. I'd be interested to take a look at it. I know he has a really great YouTube channel that he's been putting a lot of videos on. And I've been in the market for more of Schmidt's book materials, but some of that is really hard to find. So if any of you book angels out there have a copy of that you feel like donating to my cause at some point, I'd be open to it, or whatnot. I know that a lot of his lectures are starting to become available on the website, so I might engage with that a little bit more as well. All right. Let's see. Let's move forward. I'm looking at my notes here. So the moon is near its degree of maximum fall at 3 degrees of Scorpio. It's a place of ill fortune. It's a place of ravenous hunger for nurturing. We're at the bottom of the wheel, nowhere to go but up, awareness of corruption and unhealthy desires and habits, possibly some impatience with natural forces. That's interesting because Taurus is all about patience, and the moon in Scorpio may give us the desire to really try to force the issue. And I think that might be a mistake at this point. So another thing to think about is the sun is going to be on this fixed star called Hamal at 7 degrees of Taurus. And that is a fixed star in the constellation Aries in the head of the ram. So we may be really trying to force an issue at this full moon and going head first into something where it would probably be more fortunate for us to hang back and maintain our dignity. The next day, the sun is going to be hitting 8 degrees of Taurus, which is on a fixed star called Shadar, and that's in Cassiopeia, the queen. So we may have to fall back on our really strong feminine dignity and allow our receptivity to happen as well. Dimphy says Martine Hermes between Warden moving and being moved. He has a horror book as well. Interesting. Dimphy, do you have a link to that book? I would love to see that book, and maybe I could order that book as well. So if you have a link to that, please put it in the chat box. I'd be real curious to support his work and to look at his research. Although Dimphy, I'm thinking of that now. It's probably in in Dutch or German, isn't it? So, yeah, I forgot you're in the Netherlands, and I believe that he is Dutch. Um, so Dimphy, I have a request for you. Take Martine Hermes' book and translate it into English for me, please. Then send me like a PDF of it, and I'll buy it. I'll send him some money, and we'll tell him that's what we're doing. But maybe we could get a translation into English, and you can be my helpful translator with that. So we'll figure out a way to mine the mind of Martine. And I find it just so fascinating that his last name literally is Hermes. I think that's a beautiful thing. Although he is an Aries sun with a Cancer ascendant, I found out in his very good webinar. It says his book is translated. Okay, so somebody put that in the chat box. Like, show me where I could get this English version of Martine's book. I never have a problem buying books. So as long as I know where the source is, I will seek it out. I did want to show you all one book that came in the mail that I'm excited about. I just got this new book from Robert Graves, The Greek Myths, the complete and definitive edition. So this is a nice thick compendium of all the different sources for the Greek myths. I have I just got Apollodorus in the mail as well, which is one of the things that Robert Graves draws upon. So I'm diving into that. And I know that there's been people have been asking me about potentially looking at other sources as well, and I'm totally open to that. I do. I've been drawing upon some Babylonians and some Sumerian myths recently. I'm trying to become as thorough. I'm trying to have as thorough of an understanding of the Greek myths first, mostly because I've been studying Hellenistic astrology, and Hellenistic astrology really draws upon both the Greek and Egyptian myths and the Sumerian mythology. So I want to have a thorough understanding of what that particular system is drawing upon. Now, even with the Babylonian myths, we have to be careful because their astrology is actually a little bit different. And again, like, this is another reason I've resisted diving into Vedic astrology and Jyotisha and some of those myths. I'm curious about those myths, but they have their own system, and I feel like I'd have to learn their whole system, which would take another lifetime. And not to say that I won't. I'm very curious about Vedic astrology and things like that. But I think that what I'm trying to do in this moment is really have a thorough, as complete as I can, understanding of the stories that are informing the particular tradition that I'm steeped in right now. But again, I do think it's important to get multiple cultural perspectives. And I've been slowly but surely trying to incorporate even different feminist perspectives into the work as well, because I know that a lot of the criticism of the Greek mythology is that it's rooted in a little bit of a patriarchal worldview. And I agree with that. And I think that it is important to restore some of the goddess myths to their rightful place within all of this. So one day at a time. There's a lot to process. Hey, we've got some new people joining us. Hello, Lisa. She says, "Yay, books!" And Wendy is here. Hello, Wendy. Nice to see you. Thank you, Wendy, for joining us. Dimphy says, "Do you read French?" Like, no, I don't, Dimphy. I am a bad American. I read English, and I took some Spanish in high school. I would like to learn ancient Greek and ancient Latin so I can translate some of these things. I'd be open to learning more languages like French and German and Italian. It's again, though, it's so many hours in the day, right? And I know that my European friends, you all are like superstars when it comes to multilingual types of things. And I wish that was the culture that I wish that was an American thing too. You're really having to swim upstream to become multilingual as an American, and it's not an excuse. I think that there are many Americans out there that really put that effort in, but I think that growing up as a European, it was much more, I think, part of just living on the border of all these different countries. It was much more part of an early childhood experience, I think. And maybe you all can comment on that. Maybe I'm making an assumption that isn't true, but I know that my European friends, man, to be able to speak a language like French, Dutch, Finnish, and then learn English on top of it. I know that my friend Susanna here was feeling a little insecure about her English when she first started talking to me. I was like, "Are you crazy? Your English is amazing. It's way better than any language that I know how to speak." So, um, but yes, I think that any help that you all can give me with translation is much appreciated. And maybe we need to start a language group where we start speaking in native tongues to one another. I'd be open to that. So we need to start like a multilingual discussion group. My Finland friends can teach me how to speak Finnish. My Norwegian. No, we don't have the Norwegian. My friends from Deutschland or from the Netherlands can help me speak Dutch. And who else do we have here internationally? We have Lee's Canadian, so she could teach me the Queen's English or something like that, or French. I'm sure that they speak French and English there. And Azur is from France, so again, we'll have to do some French. Hi, Carly. Carly's here again. She could teach me Californian English, that dialect. She's out there in LA, I think, right now. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun that we have such a diverse group here. I'm really excited about it. What I want to do now is I want to move forward to, I want to just examine a little bit of the last quarter moon, and then give you a preview of the new moon that's going to happen on the 11th of May. And then I want to wrap it all up with the I-Ching and break down the I-Ching reading for you. Okay. Susanna says, I still have that problem. I took Kat's Daimon course and was terrified of speaking. Yeah, Susanna, I think that, I know that it is uncomfortable, and I think the worst thing for a Cancerian is to feel misunderstood, because I think it's already difficult for us to cut through 3 layers of emotion to actually just make any words in any language. So we're always feeling like we're going to be completely misunderstood. But I don't think that you should have any fear of speaking up, Susanna, because I think that your English is very good. You express yourself very well. And even in writing, I can understand you 100%, and even get some of the emotional nuances within it. So I think that's a fear that maybe this full moon, hopefully you can cut ties with that and put it to rest. Lee says she's very terrible at Canadian French as well as Parisian French. Okay. Yeah, I know that Canada is, it's one step above us Americans, right? You all have 2 languages that you can deal with, 2 or 3. And then the Europeans they have us, some of them are multilingual where they can speak 3 or 4 languages or 5 or whatever. I do have ancestry from Switzerland, from both the French and the German part of Switzerland. So if I ever want to return back to my roots, I need to learn a number of languages, I think, to get back in touch with that. I recently was trying to explore some of the mythology of Switzerland, and I found these really great stories, but they were all in German. So I need to probably learn German next if I want to get in touch with my roots and my ancestry. All right, so let's take a look here at the first quarter, because I think that is really something that is going to be important for figuring out how this is all going to play out. Now, the first thing I will say is that the moon will escape the bond or move outside of 15 degrees of opposition with the sun, and it will make a square to Jupiter. That's actually a positive thing for this full moon. This gives me hope because even though it is a square with Jupiter, it's contact with a benefic planet. So it tells me that there may be a hopeful resolution to whatever conflict we are looking at. And the I-Ching did speak to that as well. So I think whatever we're going through right now, I think that there might be a positive outcome eventually if we are able to leave the past behind. And like we were speaking to earlier, this too shall pass, and dealing with the feelings of the moment without getting into too deep of a conflict, I think it is important. Sometimes retreating from a conflict. Again, we'll see that in the I Ching that comes up. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out, that the first aspect the moon makes is a square with Jupiter. As we move forward to the first quarter moon phase, we are going to see a number of things that are going to happen. First of all, here on May 1st and 2nd, Mercury is going to escape the beams, and it's going to reveal itself as the evening star. So I think that yes, Taria says she was going to ask me about escaping the bond. You're a mind reader. I think you just may be a very loud, emotional projector, Taria, and you and I are just on the wavelength. I think that we've talked about this in the past, and I think even though Susanna and I have a similar experience having the sun on the same degree, Taria and I are on another wavelength with having our suns trined with her Pisces sun. She's just sending out the vibes, and I'm picking it up on the antenna here. So I'm glad that we were able to discuss that, though, because it is an important technique in Hellenistic astrology, is that when the moon escapes the bond, it is no longer held prisoner sort of by the sun, and it's able to start manifesting again, and it shows us the coloration of what we're going to be experiencing at the full moon. Okay, so what we're seeing here with Mercury on the second is it's escaping from the beams, sort of like escaping the bond, but it's going to become visible again. Okay, and Mercury, there's probably some messages we're going to be experiencing around May 2nd and May 3rd that we really want to pay attention to, because Mercury is emerging as the evening star, and it is going to be giving us some really important omens about communication and things of that nature, and especially in the Taurus ruled area of our chart. So I really want you to take a look at the Taurus ruled area of your chart and see that there may be some messaging coming in that temple around May 2nd. All right. Now, as we move forward to May the 3rd, okay, this is going to be a really peak point in this cycle. We're going to see a couple of things happen. We do have our last quarter moon phase at about 13 degrees of Aquarius, and then the sun at 13 degrees of Taurus. So you could see that there's a square between these two planets. The last quarter moon phases are kind of like existential crises, where we are changing our minds about something, where something is shown to have maybe outlived its efficacy and it's time to let go. This is a doubly intense one, because the moon is going to be making an exact conjunction with Saturn on the same day. So those feelings of exile, those feelings of maybe social alienation or disrupting the inner harmony or the inner routines that we have, are probably going to be intense around May 2nd and May 3rd because of some of the news that we may be getting from Mercury. I would say that there's probably going to be things happening in the collective as well, with Saturn on this sign of thinking about communal issues that may be paralyzing. So I think that there may be a little bit of a challenge where we're like, oh man, there's something going on in the collective that is really making us feel like we're not able to manifest the way that we want to, that we have to let go of something and shift perspective. So I think that the key with the last quarter moon here, and we can see, again, I'm going to stop my share because I want you to see these two cards. The sun's going to be in the Six of Pentacles decan, which has to do with charity and the way that we distribute resources. Okay. And Saturn and the moon are going to be in this decan where we're leaving the past behind. So we may really be leaving behind old notions of how we're provided for or how we provide for others. And Taria is saying it's a sobering moment with Moon and Saturn. Yes, definitely. One of the big themes of this Taurus season in general is sobriety. And I've talked about this with many friends who have, when we talk about Taurus season, we talk about like experiencing this lush, like almost hedonistic pursuit of pleasure. We want to get our gardens going. We want to dig our hands in the soil. Remember, there's hard work associated with Taurus too. It was, I think, we have to think of that dual rulership of Aphrodite, who was creating beauty, but also her husband was Hephaestus, the blacksmith that works very hard and does the ugly, dirty work to create something amazing and beautiful. But at this moment, yes, Saturn is in that overcoming position saying, put the brakes on with creating and create within these limitations. It doesn't mean that you can't create. It doesn't mean that you can't take any pleasure. It just means that there is things that are greater. There are forces that are greater than you right now that are requiring us to be very, to endure some hardship right now. And that may put a little bit of a damper on our spring picnics or whatever it is that we're trying to do. But again, I think if we commit to Saturn right now, we will definitely need to uh, sometimes put the needs of others before our own personal wants and desires, and that is really going to become apparent, I think, at this square as well. Lee's saying, I will watch this later today. Thank you, Spencer. Thank you, Lee, for being here. Thank you, all of you who have been here. And yeah, this will definitely be available to watch after the fact too. So I know we run a little long. Probably got maybe 15 more minutes here as I dive into the last quarter and then the I-Ching meeting. So yeah, appreciate all of you being here for sure. So Mercury is going to be appearing as the evening star around that last quarter. We're going to have the sobering Moon-Saturn conjunction. Let's look at the chart once again. And we may, like I said, we may have to put the needs of the collective above our own personal needs at this point. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, when we move forward to the 11th, we're going to see the new moon in Taurus 3 at 21 degrees of Taurus. And Mars has moved into the second decan of Cancer, which has a little bit more significations with celebrations rather than one-on-one relationships and like parties and things of that nature. So we may we may want to party at this point, but Mars is like, you can't party. You know, things are still need restraint at this point. But the sun and the moon in the third decan have to do with the Seven of Pentacles, where we have been tending to our fields and we may have to protect against disease or pestilence or any type of thing that threatens the things that we are growing. And that comes through faith. Okay, so this really will be a new moon where we have to cultivate patience, faith, where we have to tend to our fields and protect them against anything that could threaten the progress that we have made. This will be a new moon that is, in fairly close contact with a square with Jupiter, overcoming square. So that's positive. I'm excited about that. That should be good. But we have a trine with Pluto as well too. So there may be some things from the depths that we have to deal with as well. Looking at the chat box here, trying to keep up with that. Tarya is talking about sobering moments. Wendy is saying sobriety quite necessary as Mars broke free from the bonds with Kala Sarpa. He got a little sporty there for a minute. Yeah, I believe it. I remember, I think that was you that was mentioning this before, that there was a particular thing from the Indian tradition where there was a certain area of the zodiac that Mars was in, that once he is free, but was this the thing with the two nodes, where all the planets were within a certain area of the nodes, and then Mars broke free from that condition? Is that what we're speaking about, Wendy? I think that's, if I'm remembering correctly, I think that's what we're looking at. But yeah, again, hopefully the next phase, I think I see a progression for people who are learning traditional astrology. Many people start out with modern or psychological astrology. Some of them embrace traditional and Hellenistic, or they may even start with medieval astrology or Renaissance astrology. And then eventually a lot of those folks are realizing that there was a lot of cross-pollination with Jyotisha and the Indian system. And the Indian system sort of is a skeleton key to understanding Hellenistic astrology as well, because that was a tradition that was not cast into exile. It's almost like an unbroken tradition for the last 2,000 years. So it can give us a lot of clues as to how ancient people thought, because many of their techniques are still intact without trying to reconstruct them after astrology had been changed significantly in the West. So I see a lot of traditional Hellenistic astrologers start to do some things with Eastern astrology as well. Like Austin Coppock has been studying with Freedom Cole. Freedom Cole is a great resource. I have his books, but again, I just feel I'm not ready yet. I will engage with those at some point in the process, but I want to really be thorough with my understanding of these techniques and these stories first, because the Indian stuff is it's so deep, and it is so there's so many new names that I'm very, very unfamiliar with, that I would really have to concentrate on those stories and those myths. And the Greek stuff is a logical extension of stories that I'm somewhat familiar with, but again, it would be like learning from scratch with the Indian tradition. Does that make sense? Again, I would love to incorporate that in eventually, and I'm really, really curious to hear about these techniques that Wendy, that you're talking about with, and trying to incorporate those in with the escaping, with the different, like the Kala Sarpa and techniques like that. Fradaria is another, like a Persian technique that is really important with that. Wendy says, having all the planets trapped on one side of the node, save for the moon, regularly moving outside the boundary produced a deep sense of restriction. At least it did for me, I should say. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that I can feel that. I can feel that, and that we've started to kind of bust out of that a little bit as we try to move forward from this very difficult year and some change that we've been experiencing. Lisa says, sounds fascinating, Wendy. I heard this referred to on the Astrology podcast as well. And I'm curious, Lisa, did this come from Austin? Because again, Austin Coppock has really started to incorporate some Jyotisha techniques from studying with Freedom Cole. I'm frustrated right now because people like Chris Brennan and Austin Coppock, and even my astrology teacher, Achyuta Bhava, have about a decade head start on me when it comes to traditional astrology. It's not going to last for long, though, because I'm crazy. Like, when I like something, I'm just going to throw myself into it like 100%. Yeah, Kelly Surtees was talking about Fradaria too. Yeah, her as well. But yes, I am very intense with my studies, and I think that I'm trying to cram a decade's worth of education into a few years here. This is why I'm making so many videos and doing the research that I am, because at the end of the day, I do want to be of service to my community, but doing it in this fashion helps me to learn it and internalize these techniques as quickly as possible. And repetition is the key for me. So hopefully I'm in the process of becoming as competent as people like Austin and Achyuta and Kelly Surtees and Chris and all of those people. I aspire to that. I know that I'm behind them a little bit, but we'll see. Everyone's on their own time frame, and hopefully I'm adding something to their conversation and to the legacy that Robert Schmidt has left behind, and folks of that nature as well. So I don't know. We'll see. I love all those folks, and man, Austin's a real inspiration to me. I use his book all the time, and um, I really appreciate my teachers, Austin and Achyuta and Chris Brennan and Kelly Surtees. I got to hang out with all of them at UAC, and it was a dream come true, being able to just break bread with them and to hear their process and things like that. Dimfy says, the Mad Hatter. Is this me or Austin? Like, I feel like sometimes I might be the Mad Hatter. Wendy says, you're amazing, Spencer. Thank you. I really appreciate your work, and I'm learning a great deal from you. Super inspired by you. Thank you, Wendy. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the support. I have a lot of you that have been supporting my work as well, whether it's through encouragement or through donations through Buy Me a Coffee. I really appreciate all of that. You are helping me to free up time to do this work. This is my full-time job now. I'm teaching astrology lessons with some folks, and I'm doing these videos, and I'm doing readings. But that's it. I'm all in with astrology at this point. I have a guitar lesson here and there, but This is my job. So thank you so much for people that have been helping to support the work that I'm doing. Lisa says Saturn prefers you stay focused on one thing at a time to achieve mastery. Yes. And I have Saturn as a zodiacal releasing time lord right now. And I'm really trying to resist my Venus and Gemini tendencies sometimes about, only getting a surface level understanding with many different things. So I'm really trying to Saturn up like with this stuff. Dimfy says, with whom I mean you, Spencer, the Mad Hatter. Yes, I can see that. I try to do my best and incorporate all these things and share my process. And thank you for being witness to it, everyone. That is really super inspiring that I have even just an audience, a supportive audience for this process. And it's a really nice energy exchange. Tarya says, this is super good. Thank you, Tarya. Lisa says, we appreciate you, Spencer. Thank you for all of the ego boosts today. I appreciate it. This is music to a Leo ascendant's ears. I love it. Lisa says, what type of services are you offering now? Well, that's a great question, Lisa. Thank you for being my hype woman. But I do offer astrological tutoring. I like to meet up with people in hour-long sessions where we go over some of these Hellenistic techniques. It's one of my favorite things to do. So if you are looking to take your studies further, I do really make adjustments to whatever the needs of your process is. If you want to learn more about fixed stars, you want to learn more about decans, you want to start at the very beginning about houses and domicile lords and all those things, I really enjoy teaching. I do offer natal readings where I have deluxe readings where I incorporate fixed stars and decans. I do tarot decan readings for people as well, and try to cram as much information into a reading as possible. I have a deluxe one that's 2 hours where we go on a deep dive with our readings. And I really do prepare for those like I do for my videos. I usually take at least two pages of really intense notes like this. Okay. Like I write really small. So I take that very seriously. I have slots on Mondays and Tuesdays for those things, but if you need a different time slot, feel free to reach out to me via email. That was kind of an arbitrary time period that I did so that I could have some time to do my other research and stuff, but I'm free to opening up time on the weekends or on other days of the week if people need other times. Also do little mini readings like with Sun, Moon, Rising, and just specific fixed star readings and specific planetary decan readings. It's really your time. And I ask that you send me some focus questions so that you can, that we can really uncover some of the challenges that you may be going through, and that the chart can really speak to many, many different things. And if we have some focus, it really is helpful. Lisa says, I think I want a deluxe reading. How far out are you scheduling? Well, I have some time within the next few weeks. So think about that. We could schedule it. I have a book now button in these description of these videos and also on my website, where you can book through I have a scheduling app. If you have any questions before you schedule, you can send me an email at spencermichaudastrology at gmail.com. Usually I book 72 hours in advance. That gives me enough time to do the note taking and things like that. I don't mind at all if people want to book, a few weeks or a month out in advance too. That helps me to figure out what my schedule is going to look like as well. So if you're on the fence and you want to throw some time out there, I'm always open to it. And I really enjoy meeting with clients, and you'll get a recording of the session afterwards, both audio and video. And yeah, so thanks, Lisa, for being my hype person today. And Lisa and I have been doing some work together, and she's a really talented diviner. And so thank you, Lisa, for participating here and for your wisdom as well, and the exchange of energy that we've been having as well. It's good. I really appreciate working with you and you being here today. So let's see. let's put a bow on this, huh? We talked about the last quarter. We talked about the upcoming new moon. This new moon is also going to coincide, I think, with Venus making its evening rise around the 22nd of May. So keep your eyes peeled for that, for Venus issues. The last thing I wanted to do, as we are just kind of wrapping up here today, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I know that you could be doing all sorts of things with your weekend, but I feel honored that you're here with me today, and we've been having such a good discussion. I really like these live streams. I know I only do them once every couple weeks. Maybe I should do more. Let me know if that's something that you'd be interested in. The conversational nature of it is really nice, and maybe what I should do is just some focused Q&As. Would you all be interested in like a Q&A where we do a Zoom meeting where you can all come on the mic and ask me questions, and we can maybe even see each other's faces a little bit? I'd be open to doing that. That might be cool. Maybe we could do a donation-based Q&A type of thing where we just, no obligation, but maybe if you want to throw a few bucks in the bucket, we could do a session where we could do something like that. What I'm trying to do too is get my subscribers up to 1,000 on YouTube. To be full disclosure, the best thing you can do is, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, because once we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark, there's a few things that I can do to monetize this channel that will really help me in the long run. I'll be able to be paid for some of the ads that may already be on here. I'm seeing some ads on my video already, but they will start to give me a kickback for those ads. And there will be an ability to do this thing called super chat, where if we do live streams like this, people can actually donate just in the middle of the chat to have different, to make your question like a priority or something like that. So I'm at about 600 subscribers right now. So if you could spread the word and ask people to subscribe, you'd be doing me a huge favor to get us over that 1,000 subscriber mark. And that's actually really important for the model that I'm using here, because I really want this content to remain open to people. And I have to get a little bit creative about how I make money doing this while trying to stay true to my integrity to keep this available to the most amount of people necessary. And that is through that donation model with Buy Me a Coffee. But also it'll be through things like getting the subscriber count over 1,000 to be able to do things like a super chat, or to maybe start to receive some ad revenue. So I hope that it's not too much, like it's not too distasteful to get an ad every once in a while on a video. But again, I'm full disclosure, I'm putting out a lot of free content, and I'm working really, really hard at it. And I do need to figure out ways to pay the bills every once in a while. So, but again, you as an audience are awesome, and it's one step at a time. And I'm figuring it out as I go. Again, I'm really motivated by this new model where we can almost have a generosity economy, where I give and I use that charitable quality that we see in the second decan of Taurus, and then the collective will provide for me and bring that energy back. I really believe that, and I have to have faith in that. And I watched my astrology teacher Chutabhava take a similar approach, and he just kept grinding and grinding and grinding. And I really am inspired by the way that he has done that. And the collective it took time, but the collective has provided for him in a really powerful and important way. And I think that that's probably a path that I'm looking to go down, is just I release expectations for how people are going to exchange energy, but I just have to keep showing up. And yeah. So super chat. Yeah, it says, Susanna would love, Lisa says, Susanna, I'd love to see your art. She has an Instagram. Why don't you put your Instagram profile in there in the chat box, Susanna, and we can support your art, because it really is great. It's really good. I love it. Eventually, I need to have one hanging in my room somewhere here in my office. So, little plug, Susanna. You send me a nice piece of art, I'll put it in the background of my video, and then you'll get free advertising. You can say art provided by Susanna from Finland. Support her. So you see, there's many different ways to exchange energy. Susanna says, you should have a lot more followers, Spencer. I've been wondering what is wrong with folks. I don't think there's anything wrong with folks. Dimfy says, and I'll come back to that in a second, is there any way to pay without PayPal? Yes, I have a Venmo account at Spencer Michaud if you want to pay directly through Venmo. I believe that at Buy Me a Coffee, they may be able to do Stripe. But send me an email if you're having trouble. We can figure something out. I do appreciate all those donations. It's great. I know PayPal is kind of a pain in the butt, but I do have a Venmo account, and that is a great way to pay directly as well. What is wrong with folks? I don't know if there's anything wrong with folks. I think that, Susanna, my thoughts on that before we finish up with this I-Ching is that I think that I am a little bit of an acquired taste. And I say this because I am very thorough. I'm a little bit long-winded, and I'm very, very detailed. And I think that sometimes people are looking for bite-sized 15, 5-minute chunks that are a little bit less in depth. And maybe I think that we do talk shop quite a bit on this channel. And I think that's okay. I actually, somebody suggested to me at one point that you are, and maybe it was this Wendy, I don't know, somebody said, you're an astrologer that is producing content for other astrologers. And I think that that's true. And this was true with my music too. Like, you're a musician that is catering to other musicians, not necessarily to the masses. And while I do think that the masses can benefit from the things that we talk about on this channel and in my music, I always am thinking about, will another astrologer benefit from this? And am I teaching concepts along with dissecting the transits of the day and things of that nature? I want, quality is really, really important to me. And sometimes that's going to take a lot longer for me to gain a following because of my almost sheer unwillingness to compromise the quality of these videos. And believe me, I've tried to make 15-minute videos where I talked in surface level. It's just not who I am. I like getting in depth. I like talking about a lot of different things. I like longer form content. And at the end of the day, it's going to be a slower climb, I think, to the top, if that's even where we're going, or to getting more followers. But once we get there, I think that the followers that I do get are going to be very, very high quality. And the exchanges that we have in these lives like this, like, I have respect for each and every one of you here as astrologers and as people and as great minds. And I really, really appreciate exchanging with that type of person who is committed on that level. And, I don't know, I just almost getting choked up thinking about it. I would rather have a smaller quality community than a really big one that is maybe more surface level. Does that make sense? And this was true with my music too. Every opportunity I was given to compromise my integrity, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Like, Wendy says, this fully loaded Virgo appreciates your approach. Yeah, I'm very popular with Virgo people because of my thoroughness and my commitment to the purity of my idealism. I think is something that resonates with them too, because I know that a lot of you folks are aspiring to that as well. And I've got a lot of Virgo on my chart. Taria says, I'm looking just like content you are making and serving. Yeah, and I appreciate you being here, Taria. You add a lot of good stuff to the conversation. Violet says, great talk with lots of details. Love it. Thank you, Violet, for being here. You're awesome. Dimfy, stay as you are. Yes, I can't be anything other than myself. I'm a Leo rising. Like, I can't be anything different. I know that there was somebody who was mentioning some drama in the astrological community, and the specific person you were mentioning is also a Leo rising, and they can't be anything other than themselves. And while that person and myself have, I would say, vastly different values, I have some respect for them just from the fact that they're willing to just uncompromisingly be themselves. And I, you know, I'm the same way, but again, from a different, probably a different end of the value spectrum, I guess. But you have to almost admire someone who's willing to stay true to themselves, whatever that is and whatever that looks like. Lisa, if you're on Facebook, Susan Falaja Art is my page. Yes, check out Susanna Falaja Art on Facebook. All right, so let me focus for a minute. Let's talk about this I-Ching. This is a great chat, though. You all are awesome. You're a great community, and I am very happy to be a part of it here. And as far as the Q&A goes, I'll schedule something like that where let's do maybe once a month. Let's get together and do an astro Q&A. Let's try to. I'll try to commit to that here. Okay. Maybe it'll be like a I don't know, $10 donation or something. You can come. I'm not going to turn anybody away, but maybe it's a $10, $15 donation to come for that kind of time. Does that sound good? Does that sound like something people would be willing or interested in doing? Because I'll try to schedule that like a live Q&A type of deal, donation based. All right. So let's talk about this hexagram. This is number 7. And this is number 7 is called the Army. Okay. And other names for this hexagram are collective force, discipline, honor, loyalty, massing of force, the multitude. So this is talking about gathering together around a strong leader, marshaling your resources. Hillary Barrett says, what are you aiming for? How can you get more from your strength? What, with all of your efforts, are you creating the life that you want? That's interesting. Are you creating the community that you want? We just talked about how awesome this community is here. And I'm pretty happy with the community that I've been creating with my efforts. So this is a time of discipline and organization. This is gathering around the strong leader in your community so that you can accomplish something important. Maybe just by the very fact that I am vocal, I have put myself in the position to be a community leader, which a responsibility that I do take seriously. I actually enjoy that responsibility. I enjoy being a point of light for the collective, and I've always had a good relationship with groups, and especially with my like college classes and things like that. I like facilitating these types of exchanges. So if you want to rally around, my leadership is in a Q&A or on this channel, I would be happy to be an organizer of that. Line number 4, though, here's an interesting thing about dealing with our personal challenges of the full moon, because the question that I asked the I-Ching was, what is the essence of this full moon? And the essence is that we are trying to rally our resources, but line 4 says the army retreats, no blame. So this is really, if we're having a conflict in our life, and we spent much of today talking about different conflicts that we may be experiencing, whether it's domestic or otherwise. But this line is in the 4th position, and it's talking about retreating to conserve your resources, living to fight another day. There may be some insurmountable obstacles or a superior adversary that is almost impossible to overcome, overwhelming odds. It's talking about holding back and gathering your strength, holding back and getting in touch with your support system, okay? Making an orderly retreat, disengaging, being neutral, finding acceptance in your circumstance. Now, this really spoke to me. Like I said, I've been dealing with trying to, respond to a family crisis from a distance and feeling some frustration around that I wasn't able to maybe be in more of a position of control or authority around that. And the powers that be are deeply entrenched. and I have to kind of retreat and not engage with them in conflict, or there could be damage that could result to both parties, and the divide could become even more cavernous. Okay. So again, I think that this one is about just cutting your losses. Remember, like, we have those 3 spilled cups in the 5 of cups, but we have to say, okay, we've got to retreat back to our support system, let go of what we need to let go of. Don't force the issue, marshal your resources. Sometimes the best thing you can do in a battle is to say, okay, I may have lost this battle, but I'm not going to lose the entire war by going through everything. Okay. Okay. So this is changing to the hexagram number 40, which is called deliverance, release, relief, end of hardship, redemption, forgiveness, letting go of the past. This is a good one. So if we are to retreat and not try to engage in conflict with the forces that have the upper hand on us, we may, through just that natural action, get the type of cleansing rain that we need. This hexagram is like a thunderstorm that finally releases its rain and cleanses away the difficult experience. So Hillary Barrett says, if nothing could bind you, where would you go? Do you have to, quote unquote, or who says, do you have to? Which path leads you to where you want to be? So this is about loosening the knot, cutting ties, that cleansing rain, washing away past grievances. I think this is a really important one here. I think that it's very, very important not to hold on to resentments. And if you have the opportunity to approach someone or something in almost a disguised manner, I got the raccoon when it came to Mars in the first decan of Cancer the other day. And that really is about putting on the mask and, almost like playing the game. It doesn't mean you manipulate people. It just means that there are times where you have to approach a conflict indirectly. And I think that this reading really speaks to that, and just maintaining your center and not really trying to engage in open warfare with people, because I don't think it's not going to work. And if you do, and if you're able to maintain your composure and you're able to release some of those old built up emotions and resentments, you may feel that you get deliverance from your conflict and from your challenge, really through that effort of keeping still, of keeping your center. All right. I think that's what I've got for you today. I'm getting some messages right now that I need to respond to. I'm maybe getting that deliverance moment myself with some potential good news on the domestic front here. I really, really appreciating all of your thoughts and prayers with my mom's situation and all that. So thank you so much for that. I think it's super healing when you have a community behind you that is trying to help. And thank you so much for that. All right, everyone. Thank you for being here today. This is awesome. This is an awesome live stream. Again, I really appreciate all of your contributions to the chat and to your ideas and all of these things. Yeah, keep your eyes peeled. I'll try to announce a Q&A. Maybe, like I said, maybe that'll be a once a month type of thing where we'll all get together via Zoom and talk some astrology for a few hours. And yeah, just reach out if you want a reading or things of that nature. And be kind to yourself, okay? Like I say that, but it's really true. Like it's important to try to be nice to other people, but also I think that the main thing is it's so much easier to create unity with other people if we're creating that internal peace first. And that's really another lesson of Taurus is coming into harmony with ourselves and getting comfortable and finding a sense of satisfaction instead of a sense of longing or desire or want. And just, look at a little Taurus baby. If they have enough food or sleep or cuddles, they're good, and they're just happy as a clam. So try to find that and give that to yourself, and that'll help get you through any bumpy patches. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today, and I will see you the next time. Peace.